Hey guys, welcome back for another video demo. What we're going to be taking a look at is for this next project we're going to be doing some repair and colorization work. I'm going to show you guys how to take a damaged photograph and repair any sort of rips, tears, marks, or folds into it. And the photos you're getting back are going to be most likely your own photograph, black and white. It may be folded, it might have crease marks, might have some pen marks, or even be torn in half, things like that. And what you guys are charged with for this project is taking that photograph, and what I want to see is your best effort to make it look like nothing ever happened to it. And you'll be handing that in as a digital format, just as a JPEG, and your original Photoshop document, so I can take a look at that and see how you guys did. And this can actually be pretty quick once you figure out which tools to use, which ones work best in different circumstances. And once you sort of get the hang of that, you might be able to give this, one or two tries before it's due. So what we're going to do is take a look at our first tool. So what I've got here is I have my image popped open in Photoshop. I'm just using this photo of this woman as a demo. And you can see it's been folded, probably stuck in a wallet or something like that. It's got a pen mark here on it, and it's got some smearing, like someone tried to wipe it off or something at some point with a wet rag, and it just ruined the ink that was on there. So first thing I'm going to do is, I never like working directly on a background layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and drag it to the new layer icon, and that's going to make a copy. So what that allows me to do is retain my original layer, just leaving it there, and work on a copy. That way if I screw something up, I can always just go back to my original, or you can keep an original copy of this photo separate somewhere else. Just rename it and use multiple files to keep an archive of your work. So first tool I'm going to look at is, how do I repair small problem areas? And by small problem areas, I mean something like, say, this spot right here. So first tool I'm going to use is, if you look over here on the side in your tools palette, we've got what looks like a band-aid. So I'm going to choose the spot healing brush tool, and feel free to experiment with some of these and see what they do and how they work. So I'm just going to choose spot healing brush, and I can adjust the settings on this just like any other brush. For the most part, I leave them as a default. Hardness is going to affect how soft the edge of your brush is. Size is going to affect how large or small your brush is. And remember, you can always change your brush size on the fly by using the brackets to the right of the P key. One will make it go down, one will make it go up. And all I'm going to do is, got my brush set, the type of repair I want it to do is content aware. It's going to look at the content and see overall what does the majority of the area I'm working on look like, and then it's going to make a few calculations and determine what this is going to look like as a repaired surface. I've got sample all layers unchecked. That's important because I'm working on just this layer. So if this was torn in half, I would have probably flattened this to one layer, gotten it as close as I could in terms of overlap, things like that. So sample all layers is unchecked because I'm on one layer. And all I'm going to do is paint over this spot. And you can see it's gone, just like that. Now this tool is good for little spots like that. Where it doesn't excel is when you start to try and cover large areas where it gets a bit more complex. So something like this here, where we've got this fold that moves across the whole painting. Painting in a large area like this can have mixed results. This may or may not work. We could get something horribly grotesque here, or it could come out looking kind of okay. So let's see what happens. And as you can see, it didn't quite do too good of a job. We've actually probably made more work for ourselves than if we had done this a different way. So I'm just going to undo this with Command Z or Control Z if you're on a PC. So if I had gone about this by doing maybe some small little sweeps, you can see it's kind of working, but not working all that well. This might be something where we do sort of an initial pass like this to get rid of the majority of the damage and have to go in with another tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to another tool here. So you'll see here we've got our spot healing brush tool, then we've got our normal paintbrush tool, and underneath that is what looks like a stamp. If you've ever been to the post office, they have these large ink stamps that they'll use to mark letters sometimes. So I'm going to click on this, click and hold, and this is called the clone stamp tool. So I'm going to select that, and just as a side note, always be aware of what the icon looks like. If the tool is doing something weird, not working the way it's been working previously, just double check you're using the right modified version of that tool. So clone stamp tool. Now the way this tool works is it adjusts just like a brush. Same ability, you can actually choose a brush type, set the hardness of the edge, all of that, adjust the opacity. Generally if I'm repairing something like skin, I'll work with a slightly lower opacity so I can sort of overlap visual information and get a better result. My sample is going to be set to current layer and not all layers or current and below because I'm working on just this layer here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my brush size. So the way this tool works is it has you set a target sample area. And the way we do that is we hold down Option on our Mac keyboard or Alt if you're on a PC. And it's going to give me this little target reticle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose an area that I want it to pull pixels from to repair or cover up the damaged area that I want to hide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a sample area right here on the edge of her cheek just by holding Option and clicking once. And then what you're going to see is if I hover over inside of this paint reticle, it's going to show what that sample area is looking like where I'm going to start painting. So if I come over here and I start painting, and you can see there's a crosshair that's showing up next to where I'm painting. What that's showing me is where it's pulling pixels from to cover up the area I'm painting. So if this wanders off into something like her hair, it's going to start pulling content from that area. So always be aware of where that crosshair is located and what it's pulling content from. So with this tool, what I tend to do is choose an area similar to what I'm going to be repairing, paint a little bit, go back, hold down Option, make another sample, and just kind of keep going back and forth. It's sort of like traditional painting. You're going to click and load your brush, do a little bit of painting, grab a bit more pigment, come back, do a little more painting, and just rinse and repeat over the same process. And I may at some point, go back and forth to different tools just to see what happens. If I don't like what it does, I can always undo it and go back and try another tool. Things like that. So it's a lot of you sort of figure out which tools work best in certain circumstances, and then from there go in and start to pick away at it, choosing little areas to sort of look at and focus on and repair. Something like this long line here where it's been folded and it's got a bit of a shadow from where we scanned it. I'll grab a larger brush, set myself a sample area, and just give it one long sweep. Choose another sample area. And just sort of hit the area a couple times to dull that down and hide it. I'm not worried about going off the edge here because when I'm done with this, I'm going to crop this down. I gave myself some extra room to work with along the edge in case I needed it. So this is just a lot of little back and forth, you know. Remember to take a step back from your work, zoom out and evaluate. Maybe step back from your machine, lean back in the chair, take a look. Also, something you guys should get used to is, you know, every once in a while, you know, get up, wander around the classroom, see what everyone else is doing. You've got people on either side of you or in front of you or behind you. Really use the studio area as an opportunity to see what other people are doing, get some ideas. Ask each other questions as well. You know, someone might have found a method that they think is working pretty well, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I found something cool, can I share it with the class? I'll give you guys the floor if you want it. I've got no problem with you guys communicating and sharing information. And odds are you may discover something that works better than my methods. I'm just here to show you guys how I'm comfortable doing things, and you'll find in time that your procedures will change, and you'll find something that's you know, something that works for you, something that you're more comfortable with. So, like I said, this is just a lot of going back and forth. Take your time with it. Step back and evaluate. Make sure that things are looking all right. Something like this pencil mark, I can use a spot healing brush or the clone stamp. If you're using a spot healing, do it little bits at a time. And just sort of work your way through the photo, you know. Pick an area, focus on it until it's repaired, and then move on to the next. And just always be evaluating how things are looking. You can see here there's kind of some weird shadow stuff going on there. I'm going to go for a different tool and just sort of go in and work some of that back a little bit. So do your best with it, get all the repair work done and out of the way. And what we're going to do next is take a look at how to colorize or add some pigment to a black and white photograph. So see you guys in the next tutorial. If you have any questions, as always, shoot me an email, ask me in class, whatever you need to get things sorted out. All right.